Go.
Trevor Duke here with First Mate Yacht Care, Mr. Lamando and Mr. Smith from Hall's Boat Corporation. They have a very old launch, 1899.
That's right.
Winona, which we just talked about, Elco, had this as a 1893 World's Fair, and this is a complete restoration you guys are doing, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
Exactly.
And Hall's is your company, and you guys specialize, you do hackers, what do you do?
Yeah, our specialty is antique classic boats. We're located in Lake George, New York. Been around since 1928, and it's been pretty much a family-owned business, for that time period. And we offer everything from boat works, which Reuben's going to talk a little bit about. It's a big part of our business, a lot of restoration type work. We have slips on the lake, and we have a boating club kind of environment as well. We also have 6 boats where they're antique classic boats that people join up into this club, and they can take them out with lodging, winter storage, kind of a full-service marina right on Lake George.
And most of your restorations, do you try and stick to less than 50 feet? Any projects?
Most of the boats that we work on are launches and runabouts. Most of them are less than 35 feet.
Okay.
A lot in that kind of 22 to 30 foot range for the most part. Chris Craft, Garwood's, Hacker, Bay Bowen.
Great.
A lot of the regional builders. So really any type of boat.
We don't see a lot of those regional guys coming from Michigan, but
yeah. We're also working on a special project right now. Reuben might talk more about, called an Interclub. It's a sailboat that's been around for a long time, and we're doing a restoration of one of those right now as well.
Great. Mr. Smith, what do you want to show us today?
Well, let's take a look at this 1899 electric Elco and see what we've started with. This hull has gotten a total structural rebuild, so it's been completely reframed, but a lot of the original planking remains, and some of the original backbone remains as well.
What type of planking is it?
The planking is Atlantic white cedar,
okay,
and the framing is all white oak, and the keel. So all the structural timbers are white oak. This is the original electric drive for the boat from 1899, and it would carry the boat up and down Lake George at about 6.5 miles an hour on one charge, so about 70 miles for a single charge with the 1899 technology. That's the motor here. These are the controls for driving the boat.
How would you operate these controls? Just
that was mounted up under the foredeck, way in the bow of the boat, and there was a wheel on it, and it had a little. You can see the gears and a pawl mechanism. So you turn it, and it would click into certain positions.
Okay.
And those contacts would engage more or fewer cells in the battery pack. So you'd have higher voltage for higher speed, lower voltage for lower speed.
Great.
And that's basically how that works.
Not a lot of silicone around here. Just
very simple stuff, but really effective, very efficient for its day.
Great.
But the newer drives are much more refined, much more elegant, but this was pretty effective for its time.
And you were going to show us some caulking on here?
Yeah, so let me just grab some tools really quickly.
Before fiberglass and before 5200.
Before, yeah, this is, we try to do stuff, as built. So we try to match the original construction as much as possible. So what we have here is a carvel plank boat, which means that the seams between the planks have a certain shape to them. They're touching on the inside, but then they're open on the outside about 1/8 of an inch. And what you do is you drive cotton in there. It's just this sort of Santa Claus beard cotton that gets worked into the seams. So it's just simple stuff. You get a big bag of this stuff, and you work into the seam. These are traditional caulking tools, a caulking iron and a caulking mallet, which have a certain sound to them, and you rely on to help tell you how hard or how soft you're driving the cotton into the boat. If you drive it in too hard, you can actually begin to damage the wood on the seam, and it won't swell watertight. Whoops, a little work on my mallet. But basically, you go along the seam and you work this cotton into the seam. It makes a real tight rope buried in the seam. What we'll do next is paint that with thin paint, which kind of wicks into the cotton and it sort of sets it into the wood. And then finally, one concession to modernity is, instead of using the old oil-based seam compounds, which turn into chalk after 10 or 15 years, we use a modern polysulfide sealant to fill the seam. And that makes a watertight seam, but also a flexible seam as the wood needs to expand and contract.
Just out of curiosity, what brand polysulfide do you use?
We like Sikaflex for this. It's compared to like a 3M 5200, a standard one. The Sikaflex is more pliant, and also it's not quite as adhesive, because sometimes you need that stuff to separate from the plank. If the plank shrinks, you want it to be able to release instead of splitting the edge of the plank.
Yeah, we work with a lot of T-Decks.
Oh yeah,
any kinds of bacon there, you can have a problem with your caulk, a problem with the substrate.
You're right.
And it's better to deal with the caulk and replace that than having to replace a very expensive piece of wood or something on your home.
Yeah, and those sealants too, because of the deep cleaners,
Yeah.
you have to use particular kinds that can resist the effects of those cleaners.
Well, and a common problem is people will use too strong cleaners and they'll eat at the substrate, they'll eat at the wood, so there'll just be a line of caulk there and no wood behind it.
Yeah, a teak deck is like a tire on a car, so wear it. I mean, whatever you can do to make it last longer is what you got to do. There's a lot of improvements in the technology for teak decks in the last little bit.
Technology's come a long way. We appreciate you showing us
Sure,
this.
absolutely.
Your plans for this, you're going to completely restore it and then what? There's a demo boat for you guys?
Oh, no, this is for a client. It's going to be used on Lake George, and it'll be, you can take rides with it, I'm sure, next year when it's done in the spring.
Well, if we want to take any rides, I think we'd rather take out a few of the Garwood or over at Halls.
I think what's special about this boat is the family that owns the boat. They bought it in 1899 Nemo boat at F.R. Smith on Lake George, and it was in the same family for 3 generations, and they took a lot of pride in this boat, and just a great family. Have a book literally this thick of all their memories throughout the life of the boat and the 3 generations, so I'm kind of proud to be working on it.
Yeah, it's a very historic boat. Some boats really deserve that special gift. They've got such a great story. A couple of boats are working on this winter too, or the Sounder One, which are raised on Long Island Sound. It was kind of the class sailboat to be in Long Island Sound. They went to the international one design, famous boat still today, but 10 of those boats were bought in Lake George and raced on Lake George for many, many decades after that. So now we have a customer who wants to match the air back in the lake. So
Buy more than 2 of them, you can sell glass up again.
we're working on it.
Yeah, we've got 2. We do.
Mr. Smith, Mr. Lamando, appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And you guys are
Thank you. Appreciate it.
What is your website? Hallsboat.com. Great, thanks again. Have a good show.